Wabash, the gentleman's rule. You gotta believe in that stuff. The Wabash always fight.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Don Morel Show, your chance to hear the thoughts and comments of the head football coach of the Little Giant program. Coach, your team now 4-0 on the season after a win on the road over the weekend against the College of Wooster, and really we'll take a look at some of the highlights, and we're going to have an unusual highlight package here in just a little bit because we're going to have about 10 plays without scoring, but it was part of a really important drive, and let's kind of start there as we talk about the game. You end up getting a massive 9.5-minute drive, 18 plays that leads to the game-winning score by Kirby Cox.
Tremendous drive. We certainly needed it. I think this is another game where we didn't play our best, but we did manage to win. At some point that's going to catch up to us, so we need to play better. But still, kudos to those guys who really did a great job overcoming some tough obstacles and gutting out another victory.
It was kind of, in some ways, a game opposite of the game against Hiram just a week earlier. In that game, struggled in some areas of the offense, but the defense really carried you through to the win. Saturday against Wooster, the offense really played well, particularly Weston Murphy had a good comeback effort. You had great games from your receivers, your running backs, the tight ends, and it was the defense that had a couple of problems here or there. Is that unusual at this time of year? Because you are really still in the first half of the season.
Well, when we look at it, I mean, without sugarcoating it, you can attribute it to growing pains, and the guys that were struggling weren't at Wabash College a year ago. So we are playing some new guys, and they're going to be great players. I have no doubt about that. But certainly Saturday on the defensive side, they got exposed a couple of times. The same way we did on offense the week before. So, but I'm confident we're going to get this fixed and we're going to be fine.
It's going to be another good offensive team rolling in here to Byron P. Howell at Little Giant Stadium Saturday. And it was a great offensive team that you faced. Gary Muntean, senior quarterback at Wooster, is an outstanding talent. Good running quarterback, good throwing quarterback. He leads the conference in completion percentage. So you really faced a top-notch offense on Saturday.
I think we did. I think we did week one against Albion also, and it's getting us ready as we climb into kind of the middle of the season. And clearly Denison will be the best team we've played thus far. They are very talented. They were 8-2 last year with a win over Wittenberg, and we're going to have to play our A game.
Let's go ahead and take a look at some highlights from the game against Wooster, and these highlights credited to NCTV. They broadcast the game on Saturday, and we were able to get highlights. We talk about the running game. You end up getting two running backs over 100 yards as we see Matt Panola go into the end zone for a touchdown. Ike James and Isaac Avant really carried the load on Saturday. You got some good runs from Bobby Bloom, Tyler Downing with a couple of carries, and Anthony McGinnis even with a 10-yard carry. Your running game really was hitting on all cylinders again Saturday.
It was, and it was great to see Isaac Avant there bust a big, long touchdown. We hadn't had one of those. That was good. You mentioned Skylar Narig earlier. Field goals are important to us, and he had a couple of critical ones, and then the recovery of the bunt here ended up being a giant play for us. It really did. Stole a possession away from Wooster.
Well, in a game where time of possession is such a critical component of what your game does or what your team does, being able to steal that possession from a really good offense really did become critical in that game.
And it may be something we try to do every week.
We see Ike James going in there for the touchdown. Ike finished over 150 yards with a 161-yard effort, 37 carries and a touchdown. We mentioned Isaac Avant had 16 carries, 126 yards, and one touchdown. So again, that good effort from the running game, but you also mixed in a lot of different receivers. We saw the touchdown pass to Matt Panola. Kirby Cox led the way with 4 receptions for 51 yards, had a huge, crucial catch along with his touchdown to keep a drive alive. Ryan Thomas, 2 catches for 33 yards. Twice you threw to Ike James with catches for 22 yards. Rashawn Jones with 2 receptions. Cody Hall really getting his first big action of the season. He had a catch for 13 yards. And Dylan Burrish with a catch for 11 yards from the tight end position. You've been able to mix a lot of people in that position. Is that depth something that's critical for this football team?
Well, it's important that we've got a bunch of guys that can contribute one way or the other, but certainly Cody Hall's catch was big. Kirby had 2 giant catches. Dylan Burrish, as you mentioned, they're all doing something. We just need to pull it all together at one time.
Defensively, we're looking at a couple of key plays right now on the highlights. Henry Weber Hunt had 2 big defensive plays, a pass breakup, and then sniffed out a screen pass and threw it for a loss overall. And then Ryan Walters with 2 big plays in the closing drive for Wooster that gave the ball back to Wabash and allowed you to run the clock out. While the defense had some issues Saturday, it seemed like when they needed to make a big play, they came through and made one.
They did. In the end, they had to stop Wooster, and Ryan Walters certainly came up big on 4th down and ended the football game.
Wabash again with a victory, 33-28 over Wooster. As we continue to look at the highlights for the Little Giants, it was Bishop Rhodes and Evan Hansen, both the leading tacklers with 4 tackles apiece, and the defense really kind of spread out the tackles. Artie Akiwa had 3 tackles. He also had a big sack, the only sack of the ball game for either team.
Yep.
And he found an opening and just came through and got the big blitz sack from that free safety position.
Artie is going to be a great player here at Wabash College, no doubt about it.
Henry Weber Hunt had one of those tackles for loss. Again, that came on the screen pass outside to Antonio Bailey, the Wittenberg or the Wooster running back. One of the things you were able to do, and I know some of it was because they scored 4 times, 3 of those plays were 1-play drives, but you really limited them to offensive touches, again, with that time of possession stat. But you also had some long drives, whether they led to touchdowns or not. And it got your defense rested and really seemed to allow the guys to be flying around to the ball late in the ball game.
It did what we'd like to be. Wooster ran 41 offensive plays. We ran about 95. Instead of 3 1-play drives, we'd love to have 3 1-play takeaways. And then we'll be the dominant football team we want to be. And we work towards that every day.
That leads us to this Saturday's game. Back at home, you face a very talented offensive team in Denison University, ranked 3rd in the nation in total offense among Division III teams. And it starts with an outstanding quarterback, junior Kanan Gabley, one of the best passers in the league. I know you and I both feel the best quarterback in this conference. I mean, he's shown unbelievable talent as a freshman and has done nothing but get better. And he's got an outstanding junior wide receiver that he likes to throw to as well, who's another big talent for them.
Yep, it's a real headache. They're good on offense, and you know you're going to slow them down. You hope to. Stopping them is not going to happen. They really moved the ball up and down the field on Wittenberg. In fact, they had more yards than Wittenberg. They just struggled to put it in the end zone.
That was the same scenario last year when this football team went to Granville. Denison ended up gaining more yards overall. You were able to convert some turnovers into 14 points, got 3 interceptions, 2 fumbles, got the late safety to keep them from mounting a drive in the final minute of the game. Same kind of thing happened to them Saturday. Some turnovers hurt them against Wittenberg. Is that one of the things you have to be able to do to try and beat a team like Denison, is force those turnovers and then convert them into points?
You do, and certainly you to win the game, you can't have any turnovers. This is going to be a tight football game, and if you are lucky enough to get a takeaway, you need to score on it. Otherwise, you just end up punting the ball back.
Defensively, they're a quality football team as well. Jack Hayden is their head coach. He was Conference Coach of the Year last year, and very deservedly so. He's done a fantastic job over his 7 years, really improving both sides of the football. We've talked about the offense, but that's a solid defense that's going to roll in here Saturday.
They are really talented on defense. You can see in the video they've got a couple guys that are certainly going to be first-team all-conference players, and kudos to Denison. Over 7 years, they've really built something, and they're up around the top of the conference.
conference standings are starting to shake themselves out. Denison, with the loss to Wittenberg, fell from the ranks of the undefeated. Now have Wittenberg, Wabash, and DePaul at the top of the standings. But there's still a lot of teams with that just one loss or just a couple of losses that still want to be in the hunt and will play a spoiler role. Denison's certainly going to do that this weekend. They know that they've got to pick, it's kind of a must-win game for them now.
Yep.
Does that provide any impetus, do you think, for them rolling in here for Saturday's game?
It does, and certainly, if you wanted to call the top-tier teams top tier, that's great. But there are now teams in the middle of the pack that can reach up. I mean, we have avoided a couple upsets by the skin of our teeth, so I think it's going to be a very interesting conference play from here through mid-November.
Well, you only have to look as far as the Allegheny-Hiram game last week. Allegheny, Coach B.J. Hammer and his squad able to put up 51 points on a Hiram defense that we saw just a week ago limit us to 25 points. So they've done a tremendous job there. But Hammer and his coaching staff. We certainly know what Denison's capable of. We saw what Wooster continues to improve year by year, so it really is a dogfight every week when you suit it up in this conference.
Conference has gotten better since I've gotten here.
What are the most important keys? You've talked about eliminating turnovers, getting some turnovers, but what does this football team really have to do to be able to pull out a victory over Denison in addition to those things?
Sure. Well, we can't give up the big play on defense, and we've worked all week on that. We can't have give up a 1 yard or a one play long touchdown play. So we've got to eliminate that. We've got to play perfect in special teams, and then as always, we need to really effectively run the football.
Kickoff at Byron P. Hollett Little Giant Stadium will be at 1 o'clock on Saturday. Tickets for the game are available online. You can purchase those at www.ticketor, that's TICKETOR.com/Wabash. You can also go to the new Wabash College Sports website that just launched yesterday. We hope you'll take a look at that and hope you'll be impressed with that and be able to look and maybe even give us some comments on what your thoughts on the new website are. But the ticket link is available there. Of course, tickets are also available at the gate. We want to remind you that if you can't make the game, it will be available on Wabash TV beginning at about 12:30 with this show, followed by Jim Amadon and Steve Hoffman with Josh Mundell on the sideline, bringing you all the action on Saturday. Again, that begins at about 12:30. Of course, their audio call will be available on 91.3 FM WNDY, again, with the 12:30 start time. Coach, good luck this week. I know a couple more days to prepare and then get ready to face it off against Wooster on Saturday, or against Denison on Saturday.
It's going to be a big game. They're a good football team.
Thanks, Coach, and thank you for watching the Don Morel Show. It's your chance to hear the thoughts and comments of the head football coach of the Little Giant program. We'll talk to you next week.
Wabash, the gentleman's rule. You gotta believe in that stuff. The Wabash always fight.